for some reason, somehow, the Republicans now seem to be somewhat embarrassed by how racist Steve King is. And I don't know where they've been for the past, half a dozen years. I mean, off the top of my head, I can think of racist things that Steve King has said. And he's not even my congressman, and I'm not in his party. Like Mexicans with the calves of melons, and he said racist stuff on Chris Hayes' show. I can't remember what it was, but I remember it was incredibly offensive.
Can we say that? I mean, the one he retweeted or tweeted himself. We can't save our civilization with other people's babies.
Geert Wilders.
So he said stuff. He went to the camp.
Oh, right.
Well,
Yeah.
He's done stuff that is
He visited Holocaust
He totally
camps in the
stepped
Holocaust.
out of this isn't about race. This is about Western civilization multiple times.
Right.
And a long time ago.
He went to the what I can't remember what camp it was. Was it in Dachau? Was it on the dime, or went to go speak to a Holocaust denial group because he wanted to get both sides? Because you don't want just the perspective of there was genocide. You want to also
just want to hear from victims all the time.
Yeah, to Steve King. My grandmother died in the Holocaust, but I also want to hear other ideas.
I think part of the problem that they have with him is that he said the quiet part loudly, as they say. Now, of course, Donald Trump's been doing this for quite some time, and I think Steve King has too. But he explicitly said, I don't see what is so offensive about the words white supremacy, which is almost just a little bit too on the nose. So you see old Steve McCarthy here, that's Trump gets Kevin McCarthy and Steve Scalise
It's
around.
still hard to not like Trump sometimes.
Right.
He's just so good at
But here he goes.
Republicans.
He's going to do something about this. And just you wait and see, according to his appearance on Face the Nation.
I want to ask you about Iowa Republican Congressman Steve King. You called some of his language reckless when he, in an interview with the New York Times, said the term white nationalist and white supremacist, he didn't know when they became offensive. Some Republicans have come out very strongly here. Jeb Bush said it's not enough to condemn him, that party leaders actually have to do something, either support a primary opponent to challenge him. Others have said he should be at least censured. Should there be action against Congressman King?
First and foremost, I came out at the very moment. That language has no place in America. That is not the America I know, and it's most definitely not the party of Lincoln.
Should he be punished for it?
I have a scheduled meeting with him on Monday, and I will tell you this. I've watched on the other side that they do not take action when their members say something like this. Action will be taken. I'm having a serious conversation with Congressman Steve King on his future and role in this Republican Party.
What does that mean?
As a leader, there is a number of things you'll see that has taken place, but I will not stand back as a leader of this party, believing in this nation that all are created equal, that stands or continues to stand and have any role with us.
Don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining.
He, of course, you know who he was talking about, right?
I have a guess, but what's yours first?
Oh, it's definitely Rashida Tlaib.
Oh, Rashida.
It is because she said mofo. We're going to impeach that mofo. Now, just to
She's also Palestinian.
Well, just to give you a sense of how much time cable news spent on Steve King saying, like, what's so wrong with white supremacy, right? Like, now let's be honest. If I was to say to my 13-year-old daughter or my 6-year-old son the words white, the words supremacy, the words wrong, the words what, I would have no problem. You know, like saying those words just floating around, right, on a piece of paper, no big deal. But I would probably not say to them, mofo. I would not. Just because, like, they'll have time to swear later, but I would just rather not. But the idea behind the words, and I think my 13-year-old can understand this dynamic. In fact, I know my 13-year-old says motherfucker anyways. But the idea behind it trying to defend white supremacy versus using an expletive to call somebody out. Adults, and I think even kids as young as 13, can understand the distinction as to why the idea of defending white supremacy is more offensive than simply tossing around a cuss word.
At a white supremacist.
At a white supremacist, for that matter. But here
So your
is...
point is that we need to be more civil. Got it.
My point is that, here, to cut to this, cable news spent 3 times as much time, it seems, on talking about Tlaib than they did with more. 14 minutes. CNN spent let's call it 15 minutes on Steve King and an hour plus on Tlaib.
If you add up all the time spent on Steve King, it still wouldn't amount to the amount of time MSNBC spent on Rashida Tlaib.
Right.
Wow, CNN is garbage.
Fox
God.
News, 42 seconds on Steve King, 52 minutes on Tlaib. 42 seconds.
I would like to see how they covered that.
We should find that. And MSNBC, 14 minutes on Steve King, almost 38 minutes on Rashida Tlaib. So,
Grow up, people.
no
God.
kidding, right?
What's wrong with Arab supremacy? Arabs held Greek civilization.
I think this more than anything else is there's a healthy dose of white supremacy, but I also think it's a woman. I mean, I'd be curious to see if we put up the report that Dick Cheney told Patrick Leahy to go fuck himself on the floor of the Senate. I wonder how much coverage that got back in the day.
Go fuck yourself.
And Muslims don't always get the fairest coverage either in the news.
But I think all of that is true, and I think it's also what we were outlining about how the press is so like desperately craven to get back into false equivalency games. So it's like, oh my God, Democrats are in the House, and
Yeah.
she said something that was rude. Thank God we don't have. And I mean, Steve King, that's old news. We already know. That's another weird thing about the press. I feel like they do these cycles where at first it's like, is it really responsible to call Steve King a racist? And then it becomes somehow, it's like he's become so flagrant that it's actually like common knowledge. And then they're like, well, why is that even noteworthy? Haven't we always known that he's a massive bigot?
No, they're not going to learn until they are literally being rounded up by Trump's shock troops and sent to the gulag. And even then, they'll care a lot that they're polite to their gulagers.
That's very important.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.